What's up, guys? Welcome to the Bolden Movement Podcast. Today, I have my first training mentor, a friend of mine, Martin, who is an area director for One Life. This episode is going to be about how trainers can improve, whether you're a new trainer, a seasoned trainer, an independent trainer. As trainers, we want to be careful that we're not superficially acting like we care, but we're not actually approachable. Let's fit the part. So I want to break that gap because a lot of trainers I feel like are not approachable, or when you do approach them, they kind of act annoyed, like you're ruining their workout. But as a trainer, you have to understand that these people have to take time to build up the courage to even come up to you, to even speak to you. So when someone takes the time to come up to you and talk to you, make sure you give them that respect and give them the floor, give them the stage, especially as trainers. Like, these people, this is your livelihood, and it's going right over your head, right? So be careful of that as trainers. So today, what we'll get into is my 3 and Martin's 3 things that every trainer should do or know to be successful as a trainer. All right. So, of course, I'll start with mine, and then, we'll switch it up. And you can always chime in. You can piggyback off anything you need to. No problem. So my first one, talking about being approachable as a trainer, working out at the gym or the place that you do train at is very important. But you also have to work out and be approachable. So this means no headphones. If you're a trainer, you shouldn't have headphones in while you're working out, because now you can't talk to people. Now you look unapproachable and uninterested. And if that is your livelihood, you're leaving everything right there on the table, because you're acting like you're in a bubble outside the session when you should be in a bubble inside the session, right? So make sure that as trainers, we are as open to helping people as we're coming across, as we're preaching. Make it make sense. If you're preaching that we're helping people, make sure that you are being open and aware of your surroundings to the people who want your help, who are looking up to you, who are inspired by you. So trainers, please be aware of your surroundings and don't brush the people off who do approach you with those fitness questions, because they are inspired by you. So don't let that go over your head. So Martin, when I talk about now working out with headphones, do you think that's like torture for trainers, or do you think that's a realistic thing to say?
I think it's great, especially for the trainers that are trying to build their business. If
Right.
you are trying to build your business, you should be working out in the gym where you're training, and you shouldn't have headphones on. Sometimes not having on your trainer shirt or whatever your uniform is, it kind of brings a guard down a little bit, and it makes you kind of one of the members. And I've seen several trainers over the years who've done that very well. I've always worked out in whatever gym that I've worked at. And yeah, you get approached. And people see you working on your fitness, that you're practicing what you preach. The only way I would say, maybe if you've already got your book of business completely slammed and you don't want one more client,
Right.
and you just want that peace of mind when you work out because you're in that gym training 10 hours a day. Okay, you go somewhere else and you train so you're not bothered. But that's like the top 1%, right? Most trainers need more clients and want more clients. And if that's the case, you should be working out where the clients are.
Right. I think all trainers always want more clients. So what is your first tip or takeaway or something you want to give to a trainer
Yeah.
when it comes to that knowledge?
I think it starts with, just like in any industry, professionalism. Every trainer, whether you're brand new or you're a vet in the game, you should be professional. And there's a lot of sub buckets that go into this. But people are usually paying you several hundreds of dollars to train them. Okay. And number one, you should always be on time, right? You should be there waiting on your client. You should be prepared. You should have a workout planned for that day. What exercises are we doing? Sets, reps, tempo, rest time, maybe even a backup plan for some exercises if you know you're going to use a machine that's really busy during that time, and other people might be wanting to use it as well. Because if you're just walking around aimlessly and you don't have a plan, your client's going to notice, and they're going to feel like they're not getting their money's worth. If you break it down to the dollar per minute that someone's paying, you might not think it's a big deal that you're 2 minutes late, but that's money, right? Like that's money that that person is losing. You pay $100 an hour, or that's like $5. You're 2 minutes late, right?
Right.
So you should be on time, and you should always have a plan ready to go. Then once you're actually training, you should be completely attentive to your client for that hour, that 30 minutes, 45 minutes, however long that session is. You shouldn't be talking to your friends, talking to other trainers. It's fine to say hi and bye, but you should be all your focus should be on that person. You shouldn't be on your phone. You shouldn't be checking your text messages.
One thing about the phone, not to cut you off, but one thing about the phone thing in training, I had this come up in the summertime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teaching a boot camp class, and it wasn't for me, it was for another company. And they're like, is there anything we can give you? And I said a timer, because I agree that when you're on your phone, it looks like you're distracted. It looks like you're texting. It looks like you're doing other things on your phone. So I didn't want my timer to be on my phone. So they're like, just use your phone. Just use the app. I don't want to use the app because it looks unprofessional, but like I couldn't get that point across. They thought I was just trying to waste money. And it's just like,
I agree. You should have a stopwatch, a wristwatch.
Something they know it's a timer. Yeah, even a timer across the room, or something that that your trainer's, being professional and appreciating your time. But I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah, because someone from the outside looking in, they don't know what you're using your phone for. So it's best to just not use it. Another thing tied into the professionalism is you should never really walk away from your client while they're engaged in an exercise, right? A lot of times trainers, they especially during the busy times, they're thinking, oh, I got to get the next station set up or the next equipment. And they just walk away from a client in the middle of an exercise. That's not professional. What if they get hurt? You're not coaching them. You've got to be attentive to that client the whole time, prepared for the session, and just ready to just provide the whole package of support. So that's my main bullet point number one: professionalism, timeliness, and even appearance, right? Like, we should be well groomed. You should get a haircut, right? Like, trim up your beard, whatever it is. You shouldn't look like you just rolled out of bed, right?
Or fresh out of a workout, still sweating. Some fans go to the session still sweating from their workout. They try to squeeze out between clients.
Part of professionalism is good hygiene. And, that's something some people might say, well, it's a given. Working in the gym for 15 years, it's not.
You'd be surprised.
You'd be surprised. Be professional.
Okay. So definitely it's safe to say that you're saying you should treat your client more or less like a celebrity, like all eyes, all attention on them the whole time. And I know I'm guilty of walking away from a client, it's, you got 2 more reps, I'll be right back. Or, but these are clients I may have been training for a period of time, but I understand it's still not professional and fully respectful to them, but also people on the outside looking in like, oh, you just walked away from, so I have to be careful of that too. So, I can admit that I am guilty of doing that.
Yeah, let them do those last 2 reps and then walk away while they're resting.
Hey, my ADD kicks in. I'm on to the next exercise. All right. So my next one was walking the gym floor. I think it's important to walk the gym floor because you want people to get used to your face, but you're also looking around to make sure you get familiar with all the equipment. So I think walking the floor periodically and cleaning up and showing that you care about the gym that you work at also shows professionalism. It shows the members that you care. And maybe that's another thing where it's like, wow, they really are fully committed and passionate about this fitness thing. I'm going to work with them. Right. So I think walking that gym floor and taking care of the gym that you're at is important. Saying hi and being social with members is also important, even if you don't think they'll ever be your client. I think trainers get stuck with only having conversations with people they think they might be able to sell down the road, but it's important to create a good relationship and community around you and be associated with, being approachable, being social, not being the salesy trainer, right? So that's my second one. Be social, but you don't always have to sell.
Yep, absolutely. And my second one actually kind of builds off that a little bit. And it's letting your personality come through and being just being a friend, if you will, to your client, even if you're in a consultation, right? It is so important to bring those walls down. And what better way to do that than to tell a little joke, right? To get the person smiling, to get the person laughing. People will buy anything 9 times out of 10 more often from someone they like than someone they don't like.
Right.
Doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are. If they don't like you, they're probably not going to buy from you.
Right.
And so it even starts with the sales process, is just building rapport, kind of letting your personality out. And then that goes into what you said on the gym floor, walking around. Like, I can't tell you, I've just gone up to guys, probably would never buy training. They're on the bench. Hey man, what are you going for a PR today? You want me to give you a spot?
Yeah.
And then they'll it's funny because most of the time they say no right away. 5 minutes later, they come get me.
Yeah.
And then I give them the spot and they're like, thanks, man. No one's offered me that, before, blah, blah, blah. So just little things like that, it kind of, it makes you well known in the gym. It helps with sales. And then for your clients themselves, like it's almost like kind of part therapist, part friend, because most of these people, they don't like to work out. So you need to make it enjoyable. If they're coming to the gym, you can have the best program in the world. Again, if they don't like you and it's like, oh man, I got to go see that guy, George, again, man, he's no fun, right? Like they're not going to go. But if you're making them have a good time, they're enjoying themselves during that session, they will stay and they will want to be with you. I've, seen trainers come and go, and a trainer with a good personality that leaves the gym, they might not even have been a very good trainer, but the clients think that they're the best thing in the world because they created that connection, and that personality shown through. So from the sale and the consultation to walking the gym floor to your clients themselves, letting your personality shine through, making them feel comfortable, and just kind of almost making them feel like they're a friend, right?
Yeah.
Is the winning formula.
It's good. I like that. Definitely have a friend in your trainer. I like that. That's a good way to put it. What would be your last one that you would?
Okay. So the third one for me would be always be wanting to grow and to expand in all areas of your profession. And one of those is getting outside of your comfort zone. Okay. So one thing I feel that most trainers are just terrified to do is to walk the floor and talk to people.
Right.
Because they have this mindset of, oh, the people don't want to be bothered. Right. Or what am I going to say? I fear of getting rejected. Okay. And it's really not the case. There's tons of people that would love your help, right? You don't really know who they are until you start talking to them. I remember the first time I had a director push me to go talk to people on the floor, right? I hadn't really done it before. It was a little nerve-wracking, a little awkward, right? I fumbled a few interactions for sure, right? But I just kept doing it. I kept doing it. And now it's like, it's nothing, right? Like I can just walk up to anyone. I know how to approach it. And then, the best thing is you ask open-ended questions so you control the conversation. Because if you just walk up to someone and say, hey, can I help you out? And they say no, boom, you're shut down.
Yeah.
But if I walk up to you and I say, hey, what's going on, George? What are you working on today? Right? You're going to respond in one way or the other. And then I'm going to read the room. And if you're very engaging, I'm going to keep going. But if I get that vibe, like, leave me alone, man, I'm going to make my own exit and I'm good.
Yeah. Right.
But that's like, again, that took time pushing out of the comfort zone. The other part of that is the education part. And I've always gotten new certifications, additional certifications. And I find that so many trainers don't do that because either A, they don't want to spend the money, or even when they get it for free because of their organization, they don't want to spend the time, right? Because it's typically unpaid time since the company is taking the time to provide you this free education. So not growing in any way, whether it's if you're not taking the education, you're not pushing yourself to do new things, it's the number one thing that leads to trainer burnout, because you're just doing the same thing every day, the same motions. You're not getting better. You're doing the same exercises, and then slowly but surely, you just, your clients see it, and then you lose clients, and that is the biggest pitfall for trainers, is the trainer burnout. So that number 3 bullet point is definitely continuing to grow as a professional. Education's a big one, and then pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Okay. Definitely some good ones. All right. So definitely continue to grow as a trainer, but not only to the required credits. You should go above and beyond, because your clients want to see you bring new stuff, new knowledge into their programming, and it's good for you as a trainer to be relevant. This may also increase your pay, what you can charge. So it's definitely good to always take advantage of continued education, because you also meet very versed trainers in these workshops and stuff like that. So you don't know who you'll come across and what you'll learn. All right. So we have the professionalism. We have
being a friend to your client, building rapport with consultations.
So now to wrap up my third I feel like is a very important one. I saved it for the end. That's why I let you kind of run through those. But it's going to be, don't be afraid of sales. I feel like a big pitfall for trainers is going to be afraid to sell. And when you talk about being a friend in your client, when you talk about being social, when you talk about professionalism, all that seems to go out the window when we talk about sales, and people freeze up and they lock up, and then they get nervous. And when you get nervous in sales, the person you're selling to also gets nervous. So why are they going to buy it from you when all of a sudden, when you told them the price, you started talking faster, or you went to a high pitch, or you said, oh, it's going to be this much. I know it's a lot, but like, if you tell somebody it's a lot, they're going to think it's a lot. But if you say something in conversation, just like you would carry any other conversation, it's received, in my experience, it perceived much more, less of a shock. It's received better when you don't have to change your personality or your speed or your tone just because you start talking about money. As a trainer, you can't get around sales. Maybe a little bit if you are in a corporate gym, but eventually you'll come across a time where you'll have to sell. So when you come across these times to sell, definitely slow down. Make sure you don't change your tone, your speed. You have to believe in what you're selling as part of it to make it genuine, but also don't be nervous about what you're selling. So a big part is being genuine in your sales. And the next part is don't get nervous and flustered, because as trainers, a lot of trainers fail because they don't want to sell. So they either stay with the people that they have until they're gone, and some of them just stop training because they don't want to sell. They didn't know selling was part of training. And that's what kicks a lot of people out, because they don't want to be salespeople, because salespeople have a bad rap, that car salesman type feel. But that's why you're social on that floor. That's why you're professional on that floor. You don't always have to sell, but you have to be a person who's inspiring, who is social, who is helpful, who is professional, who's attentive to their client. And that also is going to translate to you having better sales interactions when you are more familiar with the people at that gym and the community, and you're used to talking to people more often. So don't shy away from sales and being social, even though it's not paid time. Trainers have this thing where they hate working for hours that are unpaid, but that's where you're going to make your money at. That's where you grow at. The unpaid hours is where the gap is going to be created, because there's trainers that take their unpaid time and they do the most with it. And there's trainers who don't do anything when they're not on the clock. And that is going to be the biggest gap.
Absolutely. Sales is definitely a big part of training.
Yeah.
And it takes time to build a little bit of confidence in your sales pitch as a trainer, especially if you're a newer trainer. It's understandable. But the number one thing that you can do is make sure that your training service is the ultimate product, right? If you know that what you deliver as a trainer is awesome, like you're writing cardio plan, you're writing a detailed workout, you're putting rest times and tempos and sets, and you've got a 3-month plan with progressions, you're sending nutritional information, you've got like a website of support or Facebook support, right? Like, you then can go into your sale with a lot of confidence because you believe in the product and this person is going to get a top-notch training experience. Right. But if all you're doing is showing up, winging a session once a week, counting some reps while you're on your phone, and I wouldn't be able to present that very confident either, because you're not buying a top-notch product. The other thing that goes into confidence is just, know your prices. Like whatever your packages are, your prices, whatever paperwork you're filling out, you should know that like the back of your hand. You shouldn't have to sit there and fumble around like, oh, let me figure out what the cost is for this 12-pack of sessions, right? Like, you should know what it is so you can answer any questions that they have.
Right. But definitely knowing your stuff when it comes to sales. So being prepared, it goes back into, right?
Yep.
Last question I'll get into. Do you think, or do you believe that a trainer should be in a corporate gym or an independent setting? Do you think it's dependent on how long they've been training? Or do you feel like it's something you can get right into?
Yeah, so it's definitely a good question. I would recommend that anyone who is new to the industry and starting out goes to a corporate gym, because we just talked about sales. We talked about a lot of trainers don't like to sell, and most people get into training to train, right? Not to sell. And if you go to a good corporate gym that has a good system set up, I feel that One Life has a pretty good system set up for that. You can come in and managers will sell for you and they will give you clients. And sure, it's probably going to be less money than if you went out there and did it on your own, but you don't have to worry so much about the sales part in the beginning. And you have time to work on perfecting your craft of training instead of really having to do both at the same time. And as you become a better trainer, it's ultimately going to make you better salesperson, because you're going to be able to have more tools in the toolbox when you do consultations. And then, as you start to learn sales, which you could probably get a good amount of training from a corporate gym as well, and you are in a position where you got a full book of business, you feel confident if you do a consultation by yourself, like, I can now sustain my business without the help of other people handing me clients. You at the very least, I think, need to get to that point.
Right.
Because once you go independent, not only do you need to do all of those things, but then you've got to find clients that are not part of, this big box gym, like these thousands of members that are walking in every day. You don't have that anymore. Most independent trainers are, they're working at a boutique or some kind of private gym, or they have their own location, because the corporate gyms aren't going to let you train there. So, you've got to have, I think, everything else ready, because that's the X factor that is going to be new to you when you go independent. The marketing for yourself, the getting clients for yourself.
Right.
So you should have the science down, you should have your programming down, and you should have your consultation and sales down before you make that leap.
Right. And I think also talking about being independent, and first, I do agree that you should go corporate before you go independent, because you want to learn how a gym runs. You don't want to try to run something that you've never seen before. So a lot of logistics, make sure you're accounting for those too, because these corporate gyms have all the systems and the payrolls and all the apps and stuff already in place. If you're independent, you have to put all that in place yourself. So make sure that you don't think, if I have clients, I'm good. You also have to put logistically all the systems in place that were given to you at that corporate gym as well. So don't act, ignorant, naive about all the systems that you were using at that corporate gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Definitely good stuff. I hope there's some gems in here for some people. I thank you for coming on. Like I said, you were my first mentor. I use a lot of stuff that you taught me, back in 2015 to this day. Whether you know it or not, I know it. I know when stuff comes on and clicks. I know where I got that from. So I definitely appreciate that. You believed in me before I even passed my first training test. So, I thank you for that. I remember where it all started a decade ago, where it came.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
thank you.
Thank you. I much appreciate it, and I'm very proud to just see how you've grown and that you're doing your own thing now, and you're successful.